Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. We are going to talk about a little bit about the election in Pennsylvania and also how did that come about. Anyhow, folks, before we get into the program, I want to remind all of our kind listeners to please go ahead and watch your Zedis, because we have people both on 3 different networks. So please go ahead and call in at 646-716. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Likewise, please remember, if you're listening right now, to share immediately. That is how we ensure that the program gets propagated throughout the entire Facebook sphere. Again, if you will, please go ahead and make sure to share the program right now before you start listening. It is extremely important based on how the Facebook algorithm is going. Secondly, I want to remind all of you that this is a call-in show again. That call-in number, 646-716-5812. I want to hear your point of view. I want to hear what you thought about the election yesterday. I want to tell me what else you're thinking about going forward in this election season. I'd also like to remind all of you folks that this is a progressive show that caters to everybody, left, right, whatever party you're in, whatever your proclivities. We want to hear from you. Likewise, we want to ask you to make sure and support the show. This show, Politics Done Right, will be going to the gun rally in Washington, D.C. on the 24th. So we need your support. Please become members of Politics Done Right and help us give you the news, give you the opinions from the progressive perspective, from a perspective that you're likely not going to get throughout the nation on our MSNBCs or the other platforms that you have out there, meaning ABC, CBS, NBC, and all these other stations. Why? Because these guys have to go through the filters of the corporatocracy. They have to go through the filters of the funders that they have. And who are their funders? Corporations that have these different types of businesses, etc. So please go ahead, help fund at Politics Done Right. Again, we're going to incur a large expense as we go to Washington, D.C. for the Guns March. We need your support. Go to patreon.com/politics done right. Be a part of the solution. Be a part of what we're doing here. We are going to have a great show for you today. We're going to talk about Conor, good old Conor Lamb. He did it. He did it in a district that is a 20+ R. What that means is that district, the Republicans won that district by 20 points. I don't think since the turn of the century has that district been run by a Democrat. I was about to say progressive, but I still want to say progressive, because if you take a listen to Conor's, he is a progressive, just one who actually likes AR, whatever that gun name is. So anyhow, the title of the show today, Democratic Win in Pennsylvania Should Be a Learning Experience. Before I get into the program, I need to tell you guys something. We had Dr. Theis, who is the director of Civic Engagement, Center for Civic Engagement at Lone Star College here in Kingwood, Texas, had an event yesterday where he asked a progressive, a Democrat, and a Republican to each bring 10 people of their persuasion to sit together in a room, discuss politics, discuss the issues that concern us all, and see what happens. I videoed the entire event, and I have it, and later on I will post it. But let me tell you something. Grassroots is where it's at. Grassroots is where we can communicate among each other. Grassroots is where we're going to stop people from fighting each other. Grassroots is where we are going to bring folks together to really come to solutions. My contention is those solutions in the long run will be progressive, irrespective of bringing in Republicans or anarchists or whomever that you bring in, because these are the policies Americans want. Because these are the policies Americans want. So I just wanted to let you know that we have a video that's forthcoming that's going to show what it is like when people of different political parties get together in a room in a structured manner to discuss politics, and that they don't have to be at each other's throat, that they can have civil conversation, and not only have civil conversation, but come out with ideas that both of them support. And this, I think, is some of the policies, or rather some of the techniques that a lot of Democrats running in supposedly red states can use to go ahead and bring the progressive mantra, something that most Americans want, to the forefront. Anyhow, title of the program: The Democratic Win in Pennsylvania Must Be Instructive. Please, whoever's listening to the show right now, please share the show. It is important, it is imperative that you share so that others are partaking of what we're talking about here. And do remember to call in show as well. 646-716-5812. For those who think I repeat myself on these particular issues, it's because we have people coming and going constantly, so I have to bring them into the fold. Democratic win in Pennsylvania. Many in the punditry see Conor Lamb's Democratic win over Republican Rick Saccone as a prelude to a blue wave. That may or may not be true, but what I saw in that race was a great candidate who did what it took to speak to the needs of the people in his community. What I saw was a young millennial. A millennial get out there, and a millennial showing folks exactly how you reach your people. Exactly how. I think that guy could go into any Republican district and win. And you're going, nothing that they used on him stuck. Trying to plaster Pelosi on him didn't stick. Try to plaster him as hating guns didn't stick. Try to plaster him as hating God didn't stick. And the reason why he came across as an honest broker. He came across as somebody who was going to work. Those people in that particular district. He was going to work for the people. Now, because of all the events that I had yesterday with Dr. Theis's civic engagement, what we call a deliberative dialogue, because we had that deliberative dialogue, I didn't have a whole lot of time to sit down and think about the items that I wanted to write today. And you know what I thought about after watching the victory of Conor Lamb? What I said to myself is, wait a minute. There is an article that I wrote a few years ago, and believe it or not, this article was written in 2012. And it hits on the exact things that I think Democrats who are running, or anybody who's running, but specifically Democrats that I'm concerned about, who are running in any district, if they follow these tenets, will win. Because the American people will see exactly what they're all about. The American people will see who they're working for. The American people will see that this is what folks want. Before I go any further, tomorrow on the KPFT 90.1 show that I'm doing Politics Done Right on KPFT 90.1 on air in Houston, Texas, which is likewise broadcast all over the country as well, I am going to have one of the part leaders, Jamie, my Republican counterpart, on that show. And I think you're going to hear some amazing things that you would not have expected to hear out of Republicans. But anyway, without further ado, what I think we better do is we better go ahead and do you know what. So do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
My dear listeners, before I go further, share on Facebook, share everywhere, share so that we can get our message out. The title of the blog of the week today, which is not a new blog of the week, it's one that I've written. It was a blog that I wrote, not a blog of the week, but I made it a blog of the week today, and I think it shows some of what Conor Lamb did to win in Pennsylvania, but I think it is more than that, and I think it is bear a listen, and I think it's one that needs to be shared. The title is, Working Middle Class Will Vote in Their Own Interests, Mostly if They See a Personal Reason to Do So. You can read Drykoff and a lot of other people, the political brain by, I don't remember the name of the author right now. And what they'll tell you is they'll tell you that you have to speak not the technical things to people all of the time. Some of the technical things you need eventually, but you have to speak to their heart. You have to speak to their needs. You have to speak to the things that are affecting their daily lives. And that is what I am contending that Conor Lamb did, and that's why he won. Many are looking at, and one of the reasons earlier in the show I said, is it a wave or does Conor Lamb's win indicate a blue wave? I am not convinced yet that this is all about a blue wave and why he won that particular district. I think he was a darn good candidate, and above being a darn good candidate, he did a lot of these things here. So here we go. Working middle class will vote in their own interest, mostly if they see a personal reason to do so. Folks, please share the program. Don't forget. On my Coffee Party radio show, Politics Done Right, that used to air every Saturday between 12 noon and 2 Central, I received a caller that illustrates why we need to ensure that we are reaching Americans in a matter that materially affect their lives. Many of us have continuously asked, why is it that those most helped by progressive policies systematically vote against their own interests? Why is that? In fact, books have been written about this. You guys remember What's the Matter with Kansas? If you haven't, you need to read it. It's a good book as far as, why is it that Kansas continues to vote against its own interests? Look at what Brownback did in the state. He went ahead and cut taxes. He implemented the perfect conservative agenda, destroyed his economy, destroyed his educational system. And what happened? They still didn't vote Davis into the governorship. They still reelected Brownback. Think about that. That happened a few years ago. But they still elected. Davis almost did it. He almost pulled it through. In fact, he had the support of over 100 Republican politicians came out in support of the Democrat because they thought their governor was crazy. They thought their governor was destroying the state, which they did. In fact, I also had a CEO on my program at KPFT on who came on and said the reason he was moving his company from Kansas City, Kansas to Kansas City, Missouri, he wanted to pay more taxes because he believed in more support for not only himself, but for the people, school and education, all those other issues. So I think I was saying, whatever the city was, he moved from one to the other. Now, these people are not stupid, folks. We like a lot of progressives, we'll put our nose up in the air and say, oh, these stupid people. One of the things that we don't do is, or I think we should avoid doing, and that's what I think why our deliberative dialogue went so well yesterday, is that everybody came to some rules. We were going to listen. Most of all, we were going to listen to the other person, because when you listen, you can then read into that person's psyche, read into that person's heart, what they're really about or what they're really trying to say or why they're doing the things that they're doing. Sometimes it's not as out of character as you might think. Sometimes it is, but not all the time. They're simply humans. We were discussing President Obama's new bold immigration move to stop the deportation of undocumented residents that were brought to this country when they were young. One of the things this directive will allow is for residents to work. As you can hear based on what I'm saying, this was before DACA got signed. The caller to my show, while stating that she had nothing against immigrants, was concerned that having another pool of workers would materially affect her family's life. She said her husband that worked in construction was always undercut by the immigrant worker because they worked for less. She also assumed that they could work for less because taxes and other things citizens are responsible for, that immigrant worker might not be. In effect, she feared the immigrant not out of racial animus, but because she felt it materially affected her family. That dynamic is important. I am not none of us are fools. None of us are naive. We know that some of the anti-immigrant sentiment is racially motivated. In fact, one of the reasons you see people concerned about the southern border and not the northern border is for that exact reason, right? But some people have a legitimate belief that these immigrants are making their lives more difficult to live based on the wages they can attain because these folks will work for cheap. Now, this story can be repeated when we watch politicians try to pit rural America against urban America. When some politicians talk about middle America being the real America, it is their intent to divide so they can then pit groups against each other. When Scott Walker's super PACs put out advertising that says the other side will take away guns, they are playing into the carnal personal response. I must not vote for the guy that is going to hurt me. I cannot vote for that person that is going to hurt me. No, I cannot. Folks that are listening to the show, we're going to continue with the blog of the week. Please remember, go ahead and share this show so that others can see and be a part of what we do here, Progressive Radio, that gives you the other point of view that you won't get from the corporatocracy. Now, the story can be repeated, as I said, but the right wing has understood. The right wing has understood that selectively personalizing issues specific to regions around the country is successful because that is how humans are wired. You see, we are wired in such a manner that we don't always use the analytical brain. We use the animal brain, that one that goes to the spine and just get a reaction out of fear. That is still the animal part of us that is still in existence today. So anyhow, they also understand that in our fast-paced society, in our fast-paced world, where the working middle class do not have the time to spend doing a lot of research, getting their message out, however untrue, and repeating it ad nauseum makes it true to a large segment of the country. Whether it's true or not, to a large portion of the country, it is true because somebody that they think is of repute said it. Okay? They have an echo chamber in Fox News and the right-wing echo chamber of talk radio to hammer that message. What is even worse is that they have enlisted the evangelical leaders to promote fallacies by giving them the social carrot of being completely against same-sex marriage and abortion. This is doing much harm to our country. This was written before the evangelicals even thought about supporting Donald Trump. This is amazing, right? This was written in 2012. And it's amazing how much things have stayed the same. It is amazing that the same evangelicals who've been destroying the country with the way they have supported politicians that meant harm to people, these are the same people. These are the same people that are supporting El Señor Trump, right? Now, here's the deal. Here's the deal. All, however, is not lost at all. All is definitely not lost. I explained to my caller that the fears were justified. After all, she is living it. I also explained that it was not the policy she should be fighting. This policy lives up to our American ideals of fairness and humaneness. Absolutely so. She should be fighting that the American plutocracy has limited the amount of work that in effect we have worker glut. Think about that. Don't blame that worker from across the river, from across the ocean for your demise. You have to blame the plutocracy that has created the environment that has screwed you. We have to learn where blame belongs. If you don't understand where blames belong, they keep repeating the bad things to you over and over again. That is why over the last 30-something years or 40-something years, we have been in the doldrums from a wage point of view, from an employer point of view. All these times that we've said, oh, the economy is doing great. Most of the times the economy was doing great was built on people's credit. I give you a whole lot of credit. I give you the semblance of doing well. I didn't invent that one. Lloyd Bentsen from Texas, a senator, as he was running for vice president back in the early days, he looked at a guy who said, oh, the Reagan economy is doing very, very well. Look, the jobs are being created, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Lloyd Bentsen said, look, If I give you a blank check and you write it, I can give you the semblance of wealth. I can give you the semblance of prosperity if you're buying on credit. But when that credit is come due, your prosperity ends. Same thing occurred under Reaganomics. Same thing occurred or is going to occur under Trumpotics, or whatever it is that we're going to call it. Folks, we have to learn who the enemy really is. The enemy isn't your fellow Trumpite. Your enemy isn't your fellow Republican. Your enemy isn't your fellow Democrat. Your enemy isn't your fellow anarchist. Your enemy is a system that methodically extracts from you. You hear me say that all the time, and I'll continue to say it. That is the enemy. Don't let them pit us against each other. The right, under the auspices of corporations, do not want the government, we the people, to invest in ourselves to rebuild our decaying infrastructure, educational system, and public services. I can think of 3 specific reasons. 3 specific reasons. Check it out, my friends. Important. By the way, as you listen, folks, please share the show. Very important that you share it right now to ensure that we get a constant flow of people coming in. The right, under the auspices of corporations, do not want the government, we the people, to invest in ourselves, to rebuild our decaying infrastructure, educational system, and public services. I can think of 3 specific reasons. If Americans believe the government has failed in education, then privatization becomes an option in their minds. If our government funded infrastructure crumbles, then extensive privatization of our roads, meaning toll roads, etc., becomes a viable option. If the public services, vis-a-vis DMV, post office, etc., provides poor service, then privatization becomes an alternative. In other words, starve the government from collecting the fair share of taxes from those who have benefited the most. This then starves the government from the ability to keep up with our infrastructure, road, bridges, airports, etc., our educational system, high schools, colleges, etc. We charge people more to go to college, and our public services. Sabotage our public sector, then claim government does not work, and then privatization becomes essential. But remember, folks, what privatization really is. Privatization means I skim 10, 20, 30% off the top of all the monies provided, and it goes to the few people who owns the corporations of privatization, the companies who own the private roads, the company who owns the private schools. While if it's we the people who own these things, we only pay for maintenance, we only pay what it costs. We're not transferring the wealth of a few to many, or the wealth of a many to a few. We're not transferring. So we have to understand the way these things work. And the way, when you hear them talk about starving the government, when they talk about failed government, the idea is to make government fail. If I make government fail, I present the reason to you that you can accept to why privatization is better, and in that form, why you are willing to transfer your wealth to a few. It's important that we get these concepts, people. It is so important, because the way it is catered is for you not to know this. Nobody tells you this. You won't go on the television and hear that it is essential that government fails for the private sector to take over and make money for the investors, the few investors that are going to then control everything. You don't hear that. Remember, the services and products this country's middle class have provided are directly responsible for those who are wealthy. Remember that. That's imperative to remember that. Remember, the services and products this country's middle class have provided are directly responsible for those who are wealthy. Creating a false depression is by design. It is used to have the working middle class fight among each other for the American dream, a good paying job. In that process, the intent is to depress wages to increase profits for a few. You got to get that. You have to understand that it's a game. You have to understand that this is a game in which you are the pawn. You have to understand that this is a game where you play no directive part in. Until you see that, then it doesn't matter. And by the way, I'm not sitting down. I'm sitting down here as a progressive, not necessarily a Democrat or Republican, but as a progressive, a person who sees these things, a person who can tell you, look, this is what they are doing to you. But we have the power to stop that. And it's still your vote. It is still your vote, but you have to vote correctly. You have to vote for the right people. And I'm talking whether Democrat or Republican, you have to vote for the right person for the job, meaning that person who believes in progressive values, that person who believes in the public sector. Why would somebody who thinks so badly about government want to serve in government? Ask yourself that question. Why so many of these people who hate the government want to serve it? Why? They understand. They understand what it's all about. Folks, if you're just joining us, please remember to share these programs. It is essential if we are to make a difference in this country. It is essential if we are going to change this country. Please share. Now, remember, I'm going to repeat this again because I want those that are just coming in, another influx just came in on both networks. Remember, the services and products this country's middle class and the poor have provided are directly responsible for the wealth of the wealthy. Don't let them fool you. Don't let them make you, don't let any wealthy person make you believe that somehow they are wealthy on their own, that they are wealthy and because they pay more taxes, they are more worthy. False. 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 We are worthy because we are a nation, a society, an interlocking society, an interconnected society. Because of the way our economic system was designed, some people are able to capitalize on it more so than others. Because of the type of economy we created, we've decided to give more value to a stockbroker than we have given value to a teacher. In as much as a teacher, intrinsic to the survival of a country, is much more valuable than a stockbroker. You know, capitalism has always been defined as the efficient allocation of resources, meaning somehow this magical market can allocate things better than individuals, but somehow it allocated more to a stockbroker than it allocated to a teacher. It allocated more to a doctor than it allocated more to a stockbroker than to a doctor. It allocated more to a banker than it did to an engineer. That's not efficient allocation of resources. That is immoral allocation of resources. That is ineffective allocation of resources. That is the wrong allocation of resources. Now, to end the blog of the week, my dear friends, the narrative shared above must be given to every single one of our neighbors, please, our friends, our families. Everybody needs to hear these types of things. Everybody needs to understand these things. And 213, I'm coming to you next. Everybody needs to understand these things, okay? It is not all that hard to do. It is not all that hard to understand when we tell this true story in a form that personalizes it with what is happening in someone's life or what they fear might happen tomorrow and in the future. It will have that impact it must. We must not only sit here and read blogs and surf the internet as we fall into helplessness about our future or the direction of the country. We must make the future. We must talk to people eye to eye over a cup of coffee at the grocery store and tell the real, true, truthful story. We must be the media. Over time, it is assured then that Kansas and the working middle class will ultimately vote in their own interests. Folks, this is some serious stuff. We are in control. We just many times have ceded it because they've made us believe that we're powerless. Folks, the telephone number, 646-716-5812. 646-716-5812. Let me get to my caller. My caller is at area code, let's see, area code 213. Come on in, sir. You're hot. Or ma'am.
Yes, this is the real brother. This is the real brother, Farron Cal. Yeah, well, thank you for having me on. This is a very interesting discussion.
Yes, sir.
First of all, how did white Marxists steal the name progressive. How did you guys come to use that name? And I understand as a black progressive, you actually believe the lies that Bernie and them and Donald Trump and them. You believe the lies the Marxists are telling.
Okay.
But so I understand you're being honest. You're being sincere. You and Tim Black and Benjamin P. Dixon. We come from a culture as black people. We come from a culture that wouldn't lie to people.
Right.
We would never fool the 99% into giving us all of their personal wealth and private property and tell them we're going to give them $15 an hour, free health care, free education, free ice cream, and then get their money and become a Marxist dictator like Putin, like Trump. Like Bernie would be if he became president.
Okay.
Never do that. I would never take money and Obama's power and give it to the 87% of white people who are on welfare simply because they feel entitled because they're white. A black person would never do that, but a white person would. And so I understand how you brothers are sincere, but you brothers cost us the election because 18% of black idiots voted for Bernie Sanders and Jill Stein and Donald Trump. So I always said the white people that supported Hillary in 2008, when Obama won the nomination, 74% of those white Democrats didn't vote. They didn't vote. They didn't go to the polls and vote for Romney or vote for McCain. They just didn't vote. And the problem, that would have been fine if 20% of dumb white idiots who supported Bernie voted for Bernie when he wasn't even on the damn ballot. You had to write his name in. But 18% of black fools, you guys got fooled by these stupid-ass racists, these white supremacists, these Marxists. Vladimir Putin picked Trump for the Republicans. He picked Bernie for the Democrats, and he picked Jill Stein for the feminist Marxists.
What is your name, sir?
All three of them. And are being investigated. All three of them are being investigated for meetings with Putin, with Russia.
Okay, sir, what's your name?
Money from Russia to steal from Hillary because Obama was black.
What was your name again, sir?
I am not talking about white people are stupid. Why would you fall for it? Why are black people falling for this lie?
Okay, sir, what's your name again? I just want to put you in my queue here so that I can answer all the things that you brought up. What's your name? Brothers, what again?
Yeah, Real Brother.
Real Brother. Okay, I'll call you Real Brother. Okay. Let me first ask you, what was your beforehand? Let me first ask you, who did you support any candidate in the 2016 election?
Yes, I supported Obama and Hillary.
Okay, so you supported Hillary in 2016.
I supported continuing Obama's success, the 45% GDP growth, the 25 million jobs, the 95 people covered under the Affordable Care Act, the savings of over $1 trillion in healthcare costs, $300 billion in middle-class tax cuts. I supported the $40 billion in Pell Grants, the $2 trillion stimulus that created the 25 million jobs that Donald Trump's creating.
Okay, Real Brother, let me tell you, first of all,
25
brother,
million people
Real
getting
Brother,
off
okay.
of food, the
Real
welfare,
brother.
and into the class.
I got you.
I supported that.
Sir, let me stop you a second here. First of all, Real Brother, you know I give everybody a platform to speak, whatever you have to say, whatever tone you have to say it, because I believe this is a platform that you probably also yourself would not have had anywhere else. I think a lot of people would have shut you down, and I didn't. And there's a reason why I didn't shut you down. And here's the reason why. Because within a lot of the white-black stuff that you were speaking about, there was a whole lot of truth to what you had to say. But also, sir, give me a chance here because, I gave you a full chance. I gave you a full chance, sir. Because, when a lot of folks want us to frame this stuff all of the times in a black-white issue. Now, when it comes to Trump and the white supremacists, that is true. When it comes to the Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton angle, that is not true. And let me qualify that. I was a Bernie Sanders delegate in Philadelphia. I want to come clean and let you know where I'm coming from. As far as being fooled, let me finish, please. As far as being fooled, there's no fooling here. We may have a difference in opinion as to why I support the types of policies that Bernie Sanders supported, which I've supported these policies before I was a Bernie Sanders supporter. Okay? I do believe in having a very, very strong social safety net. So does Obama. So does many other good democratic socialists. Now, the Obama may not have come out and said he's a democratic socialist, but let me finish, please, sir.
Obama's moderate.
Sir, I gave you. Let me.
What I mean.
No, what? Let me finish, sir. Sir, I gave you a full.
Moderate.
Sir, I gave you a full chance to talk. Let me talk, and then I promise I'll give you a chance to answer as well. Okay? But let me finish making my point. Okay. Don't interrupt me. I won't interrupt you. Okay. Here we go. Obama came and became, you're correct, Obama is a moderate now. Obama was no moderate. A lot of the things the right was trying to stamp on Obama, believe it or not, was true, but for me that was good. For a lot of these crazies who think democratic socialism is bad, for them it was bad. But let me tell you what I stand for and why Obama stood for that. When Obama stood for single-payer health care before he didn't, or before the Democrats changed it, and before the Democrats ripped out the public option, Obama was there. When we spoke about having guaranteed income for what's called a guaranteed income source, Obama was there. So everything that you hear Bernie Sanders talking about, at some time you can find within the literature where Obama was there. And the reason why Obama was there is that is an equitable thing to do. The fact that you support Obama means also that you support the equitable thing to do. Now, when you come and you start using words like the Marxist this, my friend, and the Marxist that, and the white racist doing X, Y, Z, this is where I look at you and I say, look, hold up. I work in coalitions all over. Last night, I was in a coalition with a whole bunch of Republicans and Democrats, good ones, folks that want to move forwards and folks that want to work together and do something positive. We are not, as a country, first of all, I think you are a good person. I think the fact that you came on to this show and spoke the way that you spoke, you're a good person. I have problems with some of the things that you say, but you have the right to say them. You have the absolute, and not only do you have the right to say them, you have the right to say them on my platform, not my platform, on our platform. Politics Done Right belongs to all of you guys. And by the way, folks, that's why I need you to go ahead and subscribe to Politics Done Right to keep us on air. So what I'm saying, real brother, is that don't let a lot of the rhetoric that you use destroy something that we can work together on. At all. I am not a stupid person. You are not a stupid person. I am not fooled. Nobody can fool this young man here, or this old, whatever you want to call me. Nobody can fool me. What I am is pragmatic, and I am willing to work with anybody that's going to move the entire country forward. That's who I am. And you can come back and add to your platform, my dear friend.
Okay. Now, first of all, no, we don't let racists who hate Obama because he's black define what Obama is. And
exactly.
paint him
I agree.
Carter and a second term Carter and an empty suit and a Muslim, all the other lies. So, no, Obama is a moderate, always was a moderate. They're just lying about him because they hate him because he's black and they're racist. Now, we can tell the truth of the Nazis. Well, you can't call the Nazis racist. The Klan. Well, you can't call the Klan racist. Come on.
You can.
If you hate somebody because they're black.
You must do that. You must do that.
You didn't. You interrupted me. All right. Number two, single payer. What is the definition of single payer? Is it free health care for everybody? No. What does the word payer mean? It means you have to pay. So it's single payer. The word is just like the word progressive. A bunch of Marxists took the word progressive and called themselves democratic socialists and called themselves progressive when you're a bunch of Marxists like Putin and communists and neo-Nazis. So that's crazy. The second thing is, yes, Obama was for single payer, but real single payer, where each single individual worker pays for their health care in a pool so you get a 50% discount. Single payer has nothing to do with free health care. It's not free. It's
real brother.
Payer. You get a 50% discount.
Okay, may I get in?
That's what single payer means.
Okay, real brother. Hold on a second. Real brother. Let me come in now.
single payer when he was for single payer. No, he's for real single payer, where each single individual worker pays for their health care, their own health care, out of their wages at a discount. It saved us $1 trillion. Bernie's plan, which was Hillary's plan in 2008, cost $2 trillion. Now, which plan is better? The plan that saves the $1 trillion or the plan that costs the $2 trillion?
Real brother.
Thank you.
Real brother. Okay.
$1 trillion.
Stay with me.
Number 3.
Yeah. Okay. Go
Number
ahead.
3. Do you want to address any of those points?
Yes, I do. That's why I was asking. Let me first go to the single pair. Yeah, let me go first to the single pair point.
Okay.
Here is this.
Is actual single pay,
sir.
Not free health care for the whole world.
Okay, you have to
care for the whole world. For the whole universe.
Come on, real brother. We're having a conversation here. We're having a conversation, not a monologue.
Just like you said.
Come on.
To work,
sir.
Marxists don't want this government. Bernie Sanders wants to destroy democracy because he's a white supremacist. And he didn't like the fact that democracy led to a black president.
Real brother.
And was about to lead to a female president. He's a sexist. He's a Marxist. He's a white supremacist.
Real brother. Hold on a second.
That's why he hates democracy.
Real brother.
That's why he's being investigated for the FBI for his wife getting $10 million.
Real brother. You have to stop and let somebody else talk.
That's why he went down to Cuba when the Russians invaded Cuba and installed Fidel Castro. Bernie is a Marxist. He joined the Communist Party in 1962.
Real brother, let me tell you.
Real
brother, if you believe in what you're saying, real brother, you have to give somebody else a chance to talk and start repeating yourself. Real brother, if you believe in what you're saying, real brother, hold on.
Dr. Cornel West's book.
Let me stop you for a second. Real brother, if you believe in what you're saying, you have to start repeating yourself.
Yes.
And not only start repeating yourself, but you have to get somebody else to talk. You're not doing that. Let's get real. Your name is real. Your name is real, bro. Hey, I didn't interrupt you. Your name is real. Sir. I'll answer your question if you be quiet.
What is the title of this book?
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember Cornel West's book, but I know the book. But listen to me. Listen to what I'm saying now. Sir, there are several things. Sir, there are several things that you got wrong. And the thing about this show is we try to deal solely in facts. You even brought in Cuba, which is completely wrong. By the way, I'm from Central America originally, so I understand that part of the world better than most. So please, let's not get to Cuba quite yet, because you were completely wrong on Cuba. You're completely wrong on Cuba. Let's
white people are dumb.
Okay, continuing. Let me go ahead.
Are you going
to allow somebody else to talk, my friend? Or are you just going to try to monopolize and not come back?
You don't want me to talk.
No,
I'm telling too much truth.
No,
you're just like Tim. You're just like Benjamin P. Dixon. They won't let me talk.
Sir,
because I'm telling too much truth.
No, let me tell you what happens. If you were to play this, you know what's a good thing about this show? It's taped. And what you'll see when you listen to the tape is for the last few minutes, you have been doing all the talking. Nobody has stopped you on this show from talking. So that is not true. Again, if you want to keep your credibility, you have to be truthful. Now, let me start telling you and responding to some of the things that you've said that were completely wrong. Your definition of single payer did not come about with Bernie Sanders. Single payer was in existence long before Bernie Sanders. Single payer does not mean free health care. Neither does Bernie Sanders free health care. What we say is as follows, and this is something that you must understand if you understand how medical works. One, right now we have separate insurance companies that corrupt a pool of people, and in that manner they are able to profit on the health of others. What single payer means is the following. We have one central pool, the American people, period. Likewise, health care comes out of the general fund, of which everybody pays. Everybody pays into the general funds. They're not getting healthcare for free. When you drive every day on the streets of I think you're 213, so you must be in California. When you drive every day on the streets, do you consider that you didn't pay for those streets that you drove on? Absolutely not. You paid for those streets as well. So come on, let's get real. Now, secondly, sir, I am speaking now, sir. I gave you a whole lot of time. I am speaking now. So be quiet, please. I am speaking. Now, when it comes to Bernie Sanders and being a white supremacist and all that good stuff, let's get some history straight. I don't know what is in anybody's heart. I don't even know what is in your heart. You could have been paid by the Russians to come on my show to infiltrate a progressive show. I don't know that, but I'm taking you at face value. I'm taking you at somebody who really wants to be. Sir, I am talking. I am speaking. Okay. Now, I decided to put you on my or rather, I accepted your call on my show, and I was decent in allowing you to be able to put whatever you wanted to put out there. Okay? Now, on Cuba, you're absolutely wrong about Cuba. Cuba didn't start with Russia. What's that? What's that, sir?
No, I said you put me on the show because you thought I was going to start pushing this lie that white people were superior, and I was going to push the Marxism. I don't want to push Marxism.
Why would I
have to pay for my insurance on the road. I have to pay single payer for my insurance, not for the roads. So what we're talking about is health insurance.
What are you talking about? They're all coming. I mean, if we had a single payer system, we would be also talking about it being a utility just like anything else, like your roads or anything else. So I mean, again, don't have tunnel vision. Understand?
Could I tell you about that? Because that lie is sickening. Could I tell you about it? Will you let me tell you about it?
Well, actually, let me tell you where I'm at right now, my friend. Because you haven't given me a chance to to put a word in, what I'm going to ask you to do is the following. I can't. No, not at this point. And let me tell you why. I got to get to the. We only have 8 minutes left, and I have to get to the to my folks on the Facebook Live page. But this is a show that occurs every day.
Right.
And you can call in anytime you want, and I won't hide your number. I am not scared to discuss with you. I'm not scared to discuss that many of your items are right and many of your items are simply wrong. So I have to cut your mic so I can get to these other people, sir. But I tell you what, you can call me anytime, and you'll see that you get on. Okay, let me get to let me go ahead and get to the to our live, and I hope that. Real Brother sticks around, because Real Brother, let me tell you what I do with folks like with Real Brother. I know that Real Brother has a lot of problems with what he's saying. And I also know that there's a good possibility that Real Brother is a plant. Okay? There's a good possibility he's a plant that when you have shows like this that are putting out the type of information that we put out, that really get people to think, that really get people to see where the problems in this country really lie. We get somebody that comes on and give that impression that somehow they're to the left of you and somehow you're taken by others. And you notice how he brought in the racial division kind of a thing. Things that, none of us are fools that are listening to politics. And right, we have a very intelligent base, a very, very intelligent base. So that they won't buy that. The thing that we have to make sure is those that are listening to this show don't get into that. And that's the reason I entertain that conversation, because believe it or not, there are thousands of real brothers out there attempting to corrupt our body politic and to have people second guess and to create wedges among people. If he calls again, I'll take the call. And the reason I'll take the call is I want to put him on the spot. I mean, yes, he's going to keep talking. There are times I don't normally cut mics, but there are times that I will cut the mic. Anyhow, let me go ahead and get to some of you on the website. And if I have to go a couple minutes over today, I will, because I held them long. Because the one thing when folks like that call, you don't want to ever have them give an excuse that somehow they weren't given the opportunity to express themselves. I think anyone listening would say we gave him more than an opportunity to repeat himself over and over again in a very non-factual basis. But I need to get to you folks who have been patient in listening. I want to get to you folks on this baby here so that I can see what kind of questions or what kind of comments you guys have. So let me go ahead and start with those comments. Come on up, network. Come on up. Where are you? All right. We have Stuart Gauntlet. Mate, get a notepad and pen. Note down the first question. Force them to stick to it until been examined. You should watch and listen to LBC Radio. They are very calm and clever with these people. I'll do that. One question examined at a time. Marxist healthcare gives white supremacists like Bernie opportunity to ration healthcare. I guess that's the caller who called in. We have Michael Rudin. O'Connor is not a progressive. Lamb wasn't fighting for Medicare for all, $15 an hour, eliminating. Yes, I mean, you're absolutely right about that he wasn't a progressive in that regards. He was, what he did is he formulated his message to win. I guarantee you that when the $15 an hour, if the national $15 an hour comes in Congress, he's definitely going to vote the way he must. And likewise, when it comes to, let's say, card carry, and all these other things, I am pretty sure that he won't block the vote or he would be a part of the vote. This is what I tell people about voting. In the primaries, vote the very most progressive person who you know has the gall to go out there and take it and win. That is what we want to do. And in this case, I think it was this guy. You're correct. He didn't stand up for those things, Michael Rudin. I am not going to argue that with you. I think there's a lot to learn, and I want to see what happens when he gets into Congress. I mean, he has a few months to check that out. Kansas, understandable that progressive politics are poison to traditional American values. Kansas knows that freedom is at stake. Well, if freedom means, Daniel Lado, put in all your students at risk of uneducatedness, then you're correct. Likewise, if not paying your teachers and depressing your economy means your freedom, go for it. Anyway, let's see. Chris Sandbag, a big win in District Trump. Won by 20 points. You're absolutely correct. Daniel Lado, I don't think you understand what progressive politics want. You're absolutely correct. That's false. Obama grew the GDP record. Again, I'm not going to go with him because he had a lot of time on air. What is it? Daniel asked Ruben, what is that list in Middle America screaming for? Daniel, if you really read, you'd understand what that was all about. Let me get to somebody else here that hasn't been reached before. And those that I don't answer in here, I'll be later. Jim Bob, my 2 cents. If, let's see, what is your 2 cents? What's your 2 cents? What's your 2 cents? Okay, let's go there. You say, let's say your 2 cents, Jim Bob, is my 2 cents. If he really wins after the ballots are counted and recounted, Conor Lamb will likely vote with Dems at least 80. Oh, you just said what I said before, 80% of the times and 100% of the time. Like Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, he probably as progressive as he can be and still win enough votes for his constituency. Yes, I wish voters were more progressive everywhere. Now, let me tell you, and this is what I try to preach, including with the blog that I just read. It is true that these guys have to play a particular role to get the vote. They can't be as progressive as they should be. But here's what we need to hold them accountable to. We need to hold them accountable for educating their district. In other words, as they're voting for progressive things that help their districts, they need to point it out. As they vote for a $15 increase, they need to then go back into the district and say, and bring up all those people that are benefiting from that $15 an hour and saying, because this person is now making $15 an hour, this rich guy that owns Papados or this rich guy that owns this restaurant, he can go to his restaurant where he couldn't before. And that means his value just increased as well. So what I want politicians that can't run on a big progressive platform because their base is not fully educated on the issues to then use their platform after they pass progressive policies to go out there and show people that these progressive policies work. Let's see, Amy Barter, you don't believe that racism, sexism exists in America? Or that isn't the norm, or that it exists? Of course we know that exists, and not only that, how can any normal person or somebody who can read or open their eyes not see that? Yes, definitely so. Stuart Gauntlet, careful, deliberate debate. Very true. There is a difference between communism and democratic socialism. It is a very, very large difference. Yes, I know that. The caller that called before, in a lot of ways, doctors call for single payer healthcare. By the way, I referenced that in our product as well. Now, folks, we're at the end of the show. We're going to go over by a couple of minutes because, again, I entertained the caller a little bit too long, and I think I got scolded by a few of my listeners on the Facebook page for maybe holding him a little bit too long. But again, this is your show. This is your platform, and because we do have some flexibility to go over or under, sometimes I'll do that. It is important for me to let you know that if you have a voice and there's something that you want to say that you feel you can't say anywhere else, that you can come here and say it. Now, unless you're going to say something that's going to be off the charts, that's going to hurt people in the long run, I mean, that's the only time you get cut here as far as, you get off the line. But I allow you to say things because every time somebody calls into this show and anytime somebody says something, they represent a large cross section. Now, this person that called earlier today, I don't know if he's a plant or not, but assuming he's not a plant, there's probably a large cross section of people that think that way. And then it is important for us to bring them on and expose that. This is your show. This is your platform. You can use this platform to get some of the messages out that you won't otherwise get. And that frustrates a lot of people. A lot of people have a lot to say, but they don't have the platform on which to say it. You have it here. Now, folks, we are going to be going, Politics Done Right, we'll be going to Washington, D.C. For the gun march on the 24th. We do need your support. We need to get hundreds of Patreon, Patreon subscribers. So what I'm asking you, if you're listening to this program, share this program and ask your friends, ask folks to go ahead and support progressive radio, progressive programs. This is not just progressive radio, progressive video, progressive everything. Go to patreon.com/politics done right and support this show. Support other shows like this. What we promise to do is we promise to give you an angle that you probably won't have otherwise from the corporatocracy. We also promise to put you on. We promise to put folks on that normally don't have a voice. We want to give you a voice. We promise also to be out there in the field. We'll be in the field on the at the gun show, or rather the gun rally in Washington, D.C., and we'll have the special Patreon application so that those of you that are subscribed to Politics Done Right will immediately have Patreon, the Patreon app, that they can watch what's happening on a personalized basis. In other words, you see it before anybody else see it, or if anybody else see you. You will see us in the fields, on the fields, out there in Washington, D.C. at the gun march. And what we're asking you to do is help support that. That costs us quite a bit. Our equipment here costs us quite a bit. Doing this every day costs us quite a bit. Please support Patreon.com. Support us at patreon.com/politics done right. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day. I honor that you guys have stayed and listened with me. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.